G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for following my content, I really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Helps me out a lot, and it's free. So, it's Tuesday, it's news day. Let's take a look what's been happening in the world of rugby. The verdict is out for Super Rugby, Super Round, Anzac Day Extravaganza. It's absolutely failure, in my opinion. I was really disappointed to say the least. The organization apparently on the ground is extremely bad, and I was just baffled by the turnout. Was horrendous. The location that was selected to be played in Melbourne. You don't need to be a genius to know that Melbourne is a terrible place to host a rugby event. The city has absolutely no idea what rugby is. Rugby Australia has not done enough work to draw enough people for a Super Rugby event in Melbourne. And this showed on the weekend. The turnouts were quite bad. Over 3 days, right? Over 3 days, there was 30,000 people turned out over 3 days. So 10,000 people per night. And just to give you a comparison, the MCG on Sunday hosted an AFL game that held 70,000 people. Yeah, one event, 70,000, and you're telling me 3 days, 6 matches, including the best union players in the planet. Okay, if Bowden Barrett shows up to Cardiff, they would have sold out Cardiff. And you're telling me that you can't sell like 30,000 tickets, 40,000 tickets? It was horrendous. There was some talks about they should have just given out the tickets for free if they couldn't sell out, just to fill out the stadium, to give it a bit more feel of like an actual extravaganza of an event, right? No, they didn't do any of that. They just left the stadium empty, you can see here. And what was really baffling to me as well, and I was like talking to my dad about this as well, they have the technology to digitally put advertising on the seats. These seats, if they didn't sell them out, they should have put the advertising on it, just to make an extra few bucks. Because everybody, both New Zealand rugby and Australian rugby, needs a bit more money. No advertising there. Maybe nobody wants to sponsor that, but I think it's just Rugby Australia being lazy, to be quite frank. You're telling me you can't get a company to put a few grand down for an international event. This is an international sporting event. You're telling me you can't find any company from Australia or New Zealand to put a few $1,000 ad on the seats? It was just horrendous organization. Like, the management's absolutely horrendous. And the balls of these people, man. The balls of these people to come out and say that the chief, Jeff Jones, has the balls to come out to call it like success. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, dude? If this event was held in Brisbane or Sydney or even Perth or any of the cities in New Zealand, you would have got 20,000, 30,000 people per night. It was horrendous. The idiocracy of these people, right? And just to give you an idea how stupidly bad this was, apparently, according to reports, there wasn't even souvenir stands. You're telling me there was 12 teams with 12 different jerseys and souvenirs to be sold at a stadium. There wasn't even a souvenir stands. Are you kidding me? How do you, like, the most basic business, it's not even I don't even know the words. It's not even produced in this event. Are you kidding me, dude? Like these people should just be fired. Like Jeff Jones, you should be fired. You should just be fired. Go collect paycheck from Centrelink, you stupid moron. Get the fuck out. Like, just unbelievable, these people. And I don't know what else to say, man. Like, it's just like an unbelievable reporting organized the event by Rugby Australia, I guess. Anyway, the actual first game was cancelled due to COVID. I don't know how this from Western Australia, actually, this was from the Western Force. I don't know how you didn't just quarantine the players beforehand. If you have an event coming up, why didn't you just fly them in week before? Unbelievable. So the first game was cancelled. Western Force couldn't attend. Right? Beautiful start to the event. And then the Waratahs played the Chiefs on the Friday night. Big blowout for the Chiefs, to be fair. Low, 4 tries. Bit of repeat from what's his name? The guy that scored 5 tries last year, Sean Wainui, who passed away. So a bit of a repeat there against the Waratahs, 4 tries. Sean Wainui's 5, and I thought was quite easy win for the Chiefs. The Waratahs, despite having Michael Hooper back, was not really able to, front up the guts. Not enough people in the Waratahs team were able to front up the guts and determination to actually pull this one out. So Chiefs 51-27 was the first game on Friday night. On Saturday, the first game was Blues versus the Fijian Endura. Fijian Endura was probably the most impressive team from the Australian side on the weekend. Believe it or not, the players actually worked on improving the things that they didn't do well. The hooker worked on his line out. He was criticized the week before for poor line outs. He worked on it, and the lineouts significantly improved. The Endurers worked on their kicking game, something that was not existent beforehand. They just heavily relied on their running game. They played their kicking game. They played their own style of kicking game with grubber kicks behind, and they were successfully able to score try. I think at least 1 try from that. Just really spectacular overall improvement by the Fijian Endurers against the Blues, the current leading competition leaders, probably going to the favorites to win Super Rugby at the moment. This was a really, really, really good effort by the Fijian Endurers. And it's a performance to be proud of. And in fact, the second half, if it wasn't for big names like Beauden Barrett managing the game, the Fijians would look really dangerous in the second half. And the Blues were definitely not as nearly as dominant as they were in the first half. And really, really good effort by the Fijian Endura. But overall, the Blues were able to walk away with a bonus point win. The Fijian almost, like I said, much better performance in the second half. The Blues did have really, really good defense overall. What can I say? Beauden Barrett kicking on point, something that's really, really important for the All Blacks. And big. This was rather. I was expecting this to be a blowout for the Blues, but it wasn't the case. So I was really proud of the Fijian Endura team. The Reds versus Hurricanes. This was another blunder by the Australian side. Brad Thorne needs to have a serious talk about the team, sit them down, and just really tell the players to have a look at themselves. There's way too many players not putting their weight in the team. There were a few really good players. McDermott from the Reds, McDermott, and who was it? Who else was it? James O'Connor was injured this game just prior to the game starting, so that really hurt the Reds a bit as well. Harry Wilson did really well. And then I think it was another guy. Was another guy in the Reds that played really well. But overall, the problem with the Reds is that this is a problem that's been consistent with the Reds for the whole season. They came out of the gates with 17-0 start, 17 points in 25 minutes, and the Hurricanes look just maybe a bit out of the comfort zone, maybe a little bit shell shocked because of traveling. But whatever the case, 17-0 start, and then Hurricanes just completely turned the game around before the end of the first half. 2 tries in 5 minutes before the end of the first half. And then second half just absolutely dominated the Reds for a really easy win. The Reds just looked completely clueless in the second half. And there was a few players like the ones I just mentioned really tried to pull the team around. But the Hurricanes just overall, the Reds has this issue where when they get too comfortable, too many players just relax. We saw the Reds give away 3 tries in 5 minutes against the Fijian Endurers. Was it 5 minutes or 7 minutes? 7 minutes against Fijian Endurers to almost lose the game against the Endurers. This is basically what happened. They unlike when you lose focus, when you feel too comfortable, when you feel like the game's in the bag, the Kiwis punish you. So they really good by the Hurricanes to beat the Reds here. The Highlanders lost to the Brumbies. There was a really, really weird decision by the Highlanders going into this game. They decided to rest Aaron Smith, who I thought was probably the difference between the game. The Brumbies came out with a really furious start and really dominated the Highlanders for the first 25 minutes. And that's something that and it just really looked like the Highlanders were outpaced in the first 25 minutes by the Brumbies. Like, and that's something that I thought Aaron Smith would have delivered more speed for the Highlanders, and then maybe able to mitigate that much better. But yeah, Highlanders came out, basically got, like, you know, really got pummeled in the first 25 minutes, and then the game stabilized, and the Brumbies just managed with the wing, with penalty kicks and a try late in the game. But I thought the Highlanders had a lot of opportunity to win this game. Tom Wright infamously dropped the ball over the try line, tried to get too cocky, tried to put the ball down with one hand. Nobody was touching him. Unforced error. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Puts the ball down, drops it. So yeah, lucky they didn't lose because of that. Otherwise, the Brumbies would be very, very disappointing. The final game of the week. This is the game of unforced errors. So this game was actually really, really weird. The Crusaders played really poorly in the first half. There was a lot of errors, a lot of drop balls. There was, I think it was 9 drop balls in the first half for the Crusaders. But the Crusaders tidied things up in the second. So the halftime score, believe it or not, 7 points to 3. Second half, the Crusaders blew the Rebels out of the water. The Rebels did not look like they know how to tackle. Players were just getting bumped off left and right. The ruck defense around for the Rebels was non-existent. And then the Rebels, the worst of all, the Rebels were dropping the ball like they're 12 years old again. Like, literally, like the commentators literally called it unforced errors from the Rebels. Just line out, you get the ball, you pass your ball to your first receiver, drops the ball. Again and again and again and again, dropping the ball. And yeah, it was really, really embarrassing. The Rebels did able to finish the game with 2 tries, but it was just, yeah, too late. And one thing that did hurt the Rebels a little bit was Matt Tuamura gets in. He got like hurt, looked like hurt his neck or maybe his head, like really early in the first half. So Matt Tuamura was someone that brings a lot of. He's really improved a lot over the last few games. That really a huge boost to the Rebels. Maybe with him off the field, the Rebels lost a bit of that management. But, you know, unforced errors is not something that Matt Tuamura can manage to stop, right? Like, yeah, I thought this was really poor. In fact, I felt like the Rebels should just be dropped. The Rebels is the only team playing at home. And they were the worst team on the weekend. Worst performing team on the weekend. Just so, yeah, she'll probably get dropped. And just unbelievable. Like, it's... yeah, anyway. So, yeah, and you're wondering, right, why is the Rebels so bad, right? So I did some reading. Apparently, the Rebels captain mentioned that he didn't even read the team sheets from the Crusaders selection because he wants to focus on their own game. I mean, you're the captain. If a player don't want to get if a newer player who's up and coming don't want to get themselves distracted by that, sure. But if you're the captain, you need to know these things. You need to know who's playing. You don't even know who you're playing up against. Just saying, yeah, I didn't even look at the police sheet. I just, you know, we just want to go out and do our own thing. It's like, okay, could you imagine like an NFL team say this? Like, oh, we don't even know who's playing, you know. Is Tom Brady even on the field? I don't know. Let's just go out and play. Let's just go out and play, make our own play. Who cares? Could you imagine like that? Could you imagine like a football team, a soccer team say this? We don't even know who. We don't even know who's up on against us. We're sure they're a good team, but you know we're just gonna go out there and try to kick some goals. Could you imagine that? This is the captain. This is the captain of the Melbourne team, right? Let me just try to get the quote for you. Yeah. The more we focus on them, the more we distract from our own game. So I haven't even looked at the team list, to be honest. That's the Melbourne team's captain. Yeah. Just collecting a fucking paycheck. Unbelievable. So yeah, we were talking about disappointment. And then there was some calls for a potential shot clock in the scrummaging, which I think it's something that's desperately needed. Like, the scrummaging has slowed down so much. If you actually go watch the scrums from the 90s, from even the early 2000s, literally the scrums is done. It's from everyone getting together, including the time the forwards, when the scrum is called, right? The forwards literally run run to the scrums. If you're not in position, if you're out in the open field somewhere, forwards literally run to the scrums. Go watch this, like, it's on YouTube. You can find old games. Literally run to the scrums, and it's packed, hit, crouch, touch, engage, and the ball is in, is out in 30 seconds. The whole thing is done in 30 seconds. Nowadays, the forwards start walking in. Everybody starts, like, looking at themselves for another 5 seconds, and then they take 30 seconds to pack. Just complete waste of time. They need to just reduce that. If you don't, like, put a clock on, whichever team doesn't come in, like, if you don't run in and set a scrum in 30 seconds, it's penalty. Just, that's it. Like, stop wasting time. The amount of time that's wasted, because, like, it's just, they need to do something with this. I think it's a great idea. Let's move on. Our New Zealand rugby boss has outlined that the potential for New Zealand to host a rugby game, Mark Robinson, for a Rugby World Cup, is actually looking a bit grim, he reckons. He reckons the game has grown to such a size that demands such big stadiums that New Zealand just can't provide. I thought this would be a shame, because New Zealand do actually have really nice stadiums, to be fair. Like, they really manage the overall feel of the stadium really, really well. So to not be able to see another tournament in New Zealand is quite disappointing. I don't know what to say, but he reckons it's difficult because of the demands that World Rugby wants in terms of, like, the facilities. It's New Zealand simply can't provide that. And that's the same issue they're having with Ireland. That's, like, the reason that they can't have the game in Ireland, apparently, because Ireland don't have enough stadiums that are big enough to host the games. So New Zealand is fallen into that category as well. So anyway, some good news for the All Blacks. Jack Guhu returns for the Crusaders on the weekend. So this is a really, really big return. He has been injured for over 12 months now. He's that centre field position that the All Blacks has kind of been missing last year. So a really, really good tick for him to return to the All Blacks fold. The Waratahs suspension. So Angus Bell had a red card early in the Waratahs game against the Chiefs. He did a flip tackle, lifts the guy over horizontal. He did not get suspension. Apparently, the judiciary ruled that there was a mitigating factor. There was another player involved in tackle, so his lifting was affected by the other player, so therefore he was not suspended at all. Weird decision. Sansa, not really consistent there, but oh well. Like already mentioned, the Reds lost a key player, and this is a key player for the Wallabies as well. James O'Connor pulled a hamstring, looks like, during the warm-up. In fact, just before the match. So he's really, really important for the Wallabies as well as for the Reds team, and maybe that's the reason the leadership's in lacking a little bit for the Reds game. But yeah, James O'Connor is out. For the Springboks now, Cobus Reinach is also currently injured, ready for a surgery on his on his shoulder. Shoulder injury. So he's not going to be playing for the Springboks in the July Test series. We're going to have to talk about that in a minute, about the July Test series. So Joe Moody also injured for the All Blacks. Big loss. The All Blacks, we're going to have a look at. It's going to have a big issue at the front rower going into the Test series. They are really not having that many selection options left for the All Black front rowers for the prop positions. None of the props looking that good for the All Blacks at the moment, to be really frank, in Super Rugby. The Harrison from the Waratahs, Will Harrison, also got a big injury. He has a knee reconstruction coming up. He blew his knee out in defense. Looked quite brutal. He was screaming while going down. But yeah, really unlucky. He's a pretty big prospect for the Wallabies. Courtney Laws also got injured on the weekend. Apparently, the bone was sticking out of his hand. What was it? Yeah, so he's gonna be out for a bit of thumb injury. So dislocated thumb, so that's a bit painful, a bit awful for him as well. And then we have, so the Fozzie did talk about on the rugby show and in New Zealand, the breakdown. He did talk about the selection dilemma that is facing the All Blacks a little bit. So the midfield is a big issue for the All Blacks. Jack Guhu coming back for the All Blacks is a big return. But the midfield position for the All Blacks really isn't world class at the moment. It's not the All Blacks midfield that we're used to seeing. Conrad Smith and John Lomu that sort of thing. Not Jonah. Maya Nonu sort of combination, or Sonny Bill Williams, that kind of level of player at centre field. Roger Tuivasi Sheck is, whilst he's good at running and attacking, but his rugby union sense is still lacking a little bit. I thought it's probably a bit too early to put him in the All Blacks centre field, to be honest. And then you have Havili is okay. They're talking about, Rico Ioane out of centre is good, but I do think Rico is still better at wing. Like, he's just such a good winger. But yeah, Rico Ioane out at centre, and then we have Jordy Barrett potentially being a centre, but Fozzie says he's going to put Jordy Barrett at fullback. So the centre position is a bit of a mixed bag. Not really the most ideal situation for the All Blacks to be in, because they typically have a really strong centre combination. Josh Goodhill definitely good coming back. Oh, Anton Leonard-Brown injured as well, so huge losses for the All Blacks centre field selections. The loose forward position is kind of like a good thing. They're having issues selection there because there's actually a bit too many good loose forwards out for selections. Blackadder, Papali'i, and then you have the return of Sam Cane, and then you have a bunch of Akira Ioane, Adi Savia. There's just like all these loose forwards are just absolutely top of the game in the world to compete from. So loose forwards probably like the good thing. It's a difficult selection there because it's a good thing. Front row, another nightmare situation for the All Blacks. All the front rowers in Super Rugby at the moment are, let's just say, I'm just gonna put it politely, ill-disciplined. So there's a lot of penalties given away by the front rowers in all the Super Rugby teams on the New Zealand side. So So it's I can imagine that being such a headache to select a good front row. Not front row. I'm talking about like props, not just hookers, but props probably mostly. That is struggling for all the teams. For the All Blacks, to be fair. So yeah, it is a bit of a headache for the All Blacks coming up with July Test series rapidly approaching. Fozzie's got a lot of work to do. So yeah, this was a weird decision on the weekend that was actually occurred. There was a shoulder headshot to a Harlequins player. This is Joe Marler. He gets pushed in by Alex Donbrun. So this is a shoulder to the head. This is typically a red card. But Wayne Barnes decided that the push by Donbrun was actually penalty against Donbrun. So this is a weird decision, but I think he probably made the right decision there by Wayne Barnes, the best in the world at the moment, some people might think. Off the field now, Dan Biggar had a bit of a verbal alteration with a fan. He got red carded in this game for the Northampton Saints against the Gloucester team. And then he comes off the field and apparently a fan was just giving him a mouthful, and he starts to talk back at him. And there's been a lot of talks about him being abused, was not happy. And the ironic thing was, he started talking back at the fan, right? And the fan accused him of being unprofessional. Actually accused him of being unprofessional because, like I said, because he's such a player in his position, should not talk back to the fan. This is actually really ironic. So yeah, it was like funny how the fan was just yelling abuse at him and then accused him of being unprofessional for talking back at the fan. But yeah, there was a bit of an alteration. Dan Biggar, everybody knows, he's a bit of a mouthy. Anyway. And then there was some big changes that could potentially coming up in the English Premiership Rugby. So they've kind of looked at the French model where they wanted, the French has a rule where they have to field a certain amount of French-based players in their team. So with the English Gallagher's Premiership, they are also looking at setting limiting the number of foreign players being allowed to be fielded on the field, allowed to play it in a starting team. So they're looking at potentially limiting to 15 English qualifier players every match in the match day for 23. So only 8 foreign players is allowed to be in a team. So yeah, this is something that kind of like reverse of Australia, kind of going back to the what Australia is doing now. Like, you have to be domestically played to be selected for. Anyway, it's kind of weird there, but they're kind of moving towards the the structure that is currently set in place for France, which has seen a lot of success for the France in recent years. But I think it's a bit more than that. I mean, the French team has a good coach and a lot of like culture changes in the French unions as well to not just, simply not having more players playing. I think it's a bit more than that. But next up, one of the doctors from one of the England under-20s game was found. Nigel Renner was found. What do they call it? Has been suspended due to a controversy for suspension decisions in one of the games. One of the players was, advised to come off the field for HIA, and he basically told the officials that there's no need for HIA, which was interfering with the HIA conduct. So yeah, he's suspended. And then next up, we have there's some England rugby talking about getting a better defense coach. The English defense is a bit lacking, especially when the reserves. This Sean Edwards has worked with France, done really well for France, and also did really well for Wales prior to going to France. So there's been talks about trying to get him for the England scrum coach, but apparently he has not been speaking to Eddie Jones at all. Yeah, so this is how it works in England, in case you didn't know. If you want to get a job, you have to get negative social media attention first. Then you get a job from Eddie Jones. That's how it works in England. You have to go negative, you have to go nuclear before you can get a peace resolution. If you're just going with a peace offering, you're going to get ignored. Also, Steve Thompson, the hooker from England, 2003 Rugby World Cup winner, he's currently on the suicide watch because he has early onset of dementia, and he's suffering from this depression. And this is really not looking good. This is why a lot of these rules came out with HIA laws. That's being really tightened up by World Rugby. But really ashamed to say that. To see that he's struggling. Next up, there's some talks about the two Australian players going overseas. Nick White and Noah Lolesio potentially being poached to Japan. I don't know what else to say. If you get the money, you gotta go with money, mate. I mean, Nick White probably can go. He was overseas before, and he's the kind of guys who probably will go overseas again. But Noah Lolesio, yeah, maybe he will go as well. I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't care. So basically the Springboks camp, it's set. Anyway, the Springbok has set their camp for the Rugby World Cup to be in Toulon for next year. So they're basically going to be stationed there for a month for the pool stage, and then move to Paris for the quarterfinal rounds, for the quarterfinal rounds in Stade de France. That is if they make it out of the pool stage, with Tonga and Scotland and Ireland in the same pool. It's pretty rough. Pool of super death. And then we have there's a game that's going to be played between the classic All Blacks and Spain coming up. So some big names being selected. Jerome Kano, Conrad Smith, Luke McAllister. I'm just wondering, why isn't Richie McCaw playing? Richie McCaw should be playing this, man. Conrad, so there's Stephen Donald. Some big names have been called out for this game. It'll be interesting. Then this will be a good practice for Spain as well. Spain has been made into the Rugby World Cup for the first time in 24 years or something. They are under investigation at the moment for breaching selection laws. So maybe they're going to get kicked out, but we're not sure yet. So far, Spain is still good to go for Rugby World Cup. So if they don't get kicked out, they'll be good to go. And they're going to be in the same pool as South Africa. Just so you know. Anyway, there's the referees have been selected for the July Test series. This video is probably going to be too long. Let's quickly finish everything we wanted to go through. Almost done. July Test series. So the thing is, there's 3 tests between England and Australia. They only announced 2 referees here. So I don't know if the report is missing someone or what's going on. But basically, James Dolman from New Zealand will be the first test for England and Australia. And then Andrew Brace from Ireland will be the second test. And that's it. They didn't announce who's going to be the referee for the third test. Wayne Barnes is going to be getting his 100th test in his 99th test cap between New Zealand and Ireland for the third test. New Zealand and Ireland could be the decider. And then we'll have Kyle Dixon for the first test between New Zealand and Ireland. Jackal Paper from South Africa for the second test. The matches in South Africa between South Africa and Scotland. Nika Amashukeli, the Georgian referee, he's the one that famously made the decision against Italy, the one where Italy went down to 13 players. He got the law absolutely right in that game as well. Really, really good referee. He's going to be the first one. Angus Garner from Australia, best referee in Australia. And the second one, Matthew Carley, the third referee for the Springbok test. And then they will have Ben O'Keefe to referee Argentina versus Scotland South Africa's not hosting Scotland. This is Scotland hosting Wales. Argentina is playing Scotland with Ben O'Keefe, Damon Murphy, Luke Pearce, the best referee in the world. Luke Pearce, probably. It's going to be hosting the Rugby World Cup qualifiers between Chile and USA. We're missing a referee for Australia versus England, the third test. Maybe it's going to be Nick Barry. Nick Barry's not in any of the selections. Best referee in Australia. Anyway, let's move on to the next news. Kalen Ponga has signed a 5-year deal with NRL, ending speculations that it was going to the All Blacks. This guy played for Anglican Church Grammar School in Brisbane, playing rugby union in a private school. Now he's playing, one of the best players for rugby league. He's decided to stay in Newcastle for 5 more years. And speaking of Newcastle, I saw Andrew Jones today in the shops. I kid you not. I saw Andrew Jones. I wanted to say hi, but I was too scared. He's big, man. He looked like he can still play. He looked in shape. But Andrew Jones, the immortal former Newcastle, Andrew Jones. You know who Andrew Jones is. There was bad news come out of rugby union in the New South Wales country teams. So Nathan Stapleton, he's paralyzed after breaking his neck in a game in New South Wales. Yeah, so really, really unfortunate. There's a GoFundMe page. Go help him out if you can. Anyway, guys, that's the news for the week. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts about Super Rugby round. And thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. And like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. See you guys a bit later this week for reviews. Cheers.